Harvard suing the Trump administration. My God. So the president doesn't like Harvard. I can tell you that because I attended Harvard and he knows it, and it gives me jazz. All right. So $2.3 billion is gone. Harvard's going to lose that from the federal government. Now he may freeze another $1 billion, and Harvard's fighting back. President is named Alan Garber. Okay. And Garber is now ordered his counsel at the school to sue the Trump administration. Quote, these actions have stark real-life consequences for patients, students, faculty, staff, researchers, and the standing of American higher education in the world. Moments ago, we filed a lawsuit to halt the funding freeze because it is unlawful and beyond the government's authority. I encourage you to read our complaint. Harvard will lose in federal court, but it'll have to go to the Supremes. They'll go all the way up. But I think they'll lose because we, the taxpayer, have no obligation to fund ideological schools. According to the student newspaper, The Crimson, which is decent, it's run by lefties, but they try, 82% of the Harvard faculty is liberal or far left. 82%. How does that happen? It happens because the people doing the hiring at Harvard University are only hiring left-wingers. I guess there aren't any smart conservatives or traditionalists or libertarians. There's no smart people in those categories. 82%. So you got an ideological college. That's what you got. And my tax money's supposed to go there? I don't want Rush Limbaugh University financed either. Okay? If you're an ideological school, you're not entitled to public tax money. Period. That's the Constitution. The public money is for the public good. Promoting far left tenets isn't the public good. It's an ideological good. So Trump's right. And Harvard should try to come to some accommodation. All right, joining us now is the guy who graduated from Harvard Business School with an MBA. His name is Anson Fredericks. I got him on for two reasons. He's got a new book out called Last Call for Bud Light, The Fall and Future of America's Favorite Beer. But he did go to Harvard. He's a smart guy. He's the president of Strive Asset Management, and he knows the turf about Harvard and about Bud Light. So we'll get into both of those. First, Harvard. Did I make any mistakes in my commentary on it?
No, Bill, I think that you nailed it. I think most importantly is you got to take a step back. And I think we need to be asking ourselves, should the federal government, should your tax dollars be going to fund universities in the first place? I mean, this is sort of a relic of an older time. The U.S. government never funded universities really until World War II.
Okay, let me stop you, though. The government asks Harvard. Harvard doesn't ask the government to fund their research. The government asks Harvard to do it because the smartest people, or very smart people, are at Harvard, MIT, Princeton, Penn, and they have areas of expertise. So the government comes in and says, look, we want you to find a cure for Alzheimer's at the Harvard Med School, and we're willing to fund your research to try to find that cure. That makes perfect sense to me. It doesn't make sense to you?
I think it might have made sense maybe 50 years ago when, again, you didn't have venture capitalists, you didn't have private equity, you didn't have a lot of money that was going into trying to solve cancer or trying to create the next great thing on the internet or trying to do AI. Because you had a very kind of nascent sort of private markets at that time. And Harvard, with $3 billion they used to spend in the 1970s, they could actually help create the internet, help create these technological advances. Today, the government's spending over $60 billion a year. Like, most things the government starts spending money and they just keep spending more and more and more. And we're seeing less and less is actually coming out of these universities. Much more is coming out of the private sector. So I actually think that the federal government, they should be incentivizing more private companies, whether it's via tax breaks, whether it's being private.
Look, you're not seeing the return. It's in both cases, the folks watching us should know that nobody's held accountable if you fail. So if the government's financing a doctor to research a disease and he doesn't come up with anything, the doctor still gets federal money. There's no performance clause in the private sector or in the academic world. And that troubles me a little bit. All right, let's pivot over to Bud Light. So this was one of the dumbest things, and everybody knows it was dumb. You hire a trans person, and Dylan Mulvaney, right? Okay, I was looking at your book last night, to sell a beer that's consumed mostly by men, straight men, macho men, sportsmen, and is this Dylan Mulvaney person, smug, promoting Bud Light. And Middle America goes, no, we're going to punish Bud Light. That's essentially what happened, right?
No, that's essentially what happened. Actually, this is really much related to what happened at Harvard. One of the reasons that Harvard and Trump is rescinding a lot of the funds is you recall that under the Civil Rights Act of 1964, you can't discriminate based of race, sex, religion, etc. Yet 2 years ago, you had Harvard's president, Claudine Gay, after Israel was attacked by Hamas, could not say if calling for the genocide of Israelis was hate speech. And this is because you had people on the left like Harvard and this whole cadre of what I call the DEI complex. You had McKinsey, who was pushing DEI studies. You had BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, pushing DEI and ESG. You had the universities doing it. And they essentially kind of follow the money bill. They were the ones that were directing large corporations. I mean, Anheuser-Busch became the essentially the poster child of what went wrong in corporate America. But a lot of other companies were essentially putting money towards supporting very progressive, very
okay, but it doesn't make any.
It was Anheuser-Busch was the one that just became the one that became the poster child of what went wrong.
When you're in Harvard Business School, they're teaching you how to make money. It's a capitalistic thing. I know there's DEI, but Bud Light, Anheuser-Busch, and you worked for them for 11 years. Are they that stupid? That's a question. Are they that stupid?
Well, they were, because when I worked there, you never would have gotten Bud Light, the largest beer brand in America that was enjoyed by Democrats and Republicans alike. You never would have had it touch anything that was close to a political issue. You wouldn't have it touch transgenderism. You wouldn't have it touch abortion issues.
What happened? All right, so you had horses, you had Clydesdales dragging the beer thing around.
Budweiser frogs, real men of genius, the was up guys. I mean, you got it. Like, that's what beer was. It actually brought people together. That's what excited people. That's what brought people together. But when you had this ideological capture, a lot of companies, you remember, Disney got involved in the parental rights issues down in Florida.
Right.
You had Coca-Cola got involved in voting rights issues. This became kind of Anheuser-Busch.
But here's what I don't understand. Why would the board of directors, why would the president, CEO of Anheuser-Busch allow something that could backfire so badly? Surely they had to know that there was risk in putting this transgendered individual in their ad campaign. Surely they had to know that.
This was ideological capture at its finest, though, Bill, is that you have this a European company now. So what a lot of people don't realize is Anheuser-Busch is owned by a European company. This European company, InBev, has boards of directors that believe in more of this stakeholder capitalism philosophy, where businesses are supposed to get involved in social and political issues. That's the purpose of a corporation in their mind. They want every company to be like Ben and Jerry's. That's the problem. Those are not necessarily American values. That's not how most companies act here in the U.S. That's where the company got into trouble. And that's where the company still hasn't apologized to this day, because it's really captured by, I think, a lot of Europeans and European thinking that businesses are supposed to be kind of part of social enterprises working with the government, not for the benefit of shareholders.
I got
it. Own the company.
And the one that benefited was Modelo, the Mexican beer. So the book is Last Call for Bud Light, Anson Fredericks. You might want to check that out. It's fascinating on how to destroy your profit margin. Thanks, Anson. We'll talk again soon, I hope. Okay, let's go to NPR. They're reporting, I guess it's a report, NPR. You gotta love them, right? They're reporting that Hegseth is going to be replaced, or maybe replaced. Might happen. Roll the tape.
NPR has learned that the White House may be looking for a new defense secretary. That's after Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth used the messaging app Signal to share sensitive information about U.S. military strikes on Yemen, this time with his family. This is the second time Hegseth used the Signal chat to do this, and it was on a personal cell phone.
Here's how shoddy that report is. All right, shoddy, SHODDY. Number one, NPR has learned. From whom? From whom? Now, you want to keep them anonymous, you say that. But they don't even say that. NPR has learned. That's not reporting. Then the White House may be looking. May be looking? Are they looking or not? This is just dumb, ridiculous reporting. And we're paying $535 million a year to NPR and PBS in the form of tax dollars. Sorry, I got my stupid phone and I didn't turn it off. Anyway, Trump, of course, gets this question, and here's what he said. Go.
Pete's doing a great job. Everybody's happy with him. We have the highest recruitment numbers I think we've had in 28 years. No, he's doing a great job. It's just fake news. They just bring up stories. I guess it sounds like disgruntled employees.
All right, so far the president's standing behind Hegseth. I think Hegseth is shaky. Now, I'm not reporting that. That's just an opinion I have. I think. I don't know. But when he was nominated, you heard my commentary. I clearly said, not going to be able to do the job. Doesn't have the experience to do it. Now, deep state, people hate Trump, all of that's involved. All of it's involved. It is. I don't know what's going to happen to Pete, but one more and I think it's over for him. But it has to be real, not NPR'd. Pope funeral update. He will the ceremony will be Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Rome time. President Trump and the First Lady will be there, along with leaders all over the world. It will be a dignified ceremony. President has ordered all flags in the USA to be half-mast until Saturday evening. Not much criticism from the left about Pope Francis. I watched The View today, very painful, to see if they were going to criticize the Pope. Whoopi Goldberg loves him. So there was no sniping. Just a little bit on the right. Go.
Do we want to continue in a basically, sad to say, woke direction in the Catholic Church, or do we want to return to an affirmation of the faith based on what the apostles handed down?
Okay, it's traditional Catholics versus liberal Catholics, but we went over to the Pope commentary. I hope you saw my presentation on News Nation last night with Leland Vittert. If you didn't, we have it posted on BillO'Reilly.com, and that's worth watching because I milled the migration thing into it and all of that. Now, I don't know your exact situation, but if you are like the thousands of homeowners that American Financing talks with each month, you're probably drowning in high interest debt. Inflation has made life more expensive. And if you are still carrying credit card balances at 20% interest or more, while your mortgage sits untouched, you're missing the opportunity to turn things around through your home. And that's where American Financing can help. Would you trade just 10 minutes for a chance to save an average of $800 a month? A quick, no-obligation call could change everything for you. American Financing has salary-based mortgage consultants, and there are no upfront fees to discover how much you could save. So don't wait. Please call American Financing today. 888-462-9557. 888-462-9557. AmericanFinancing.net. Border, lowest in history now. Amazing achievement by the Trump administration, and it is. 673 a day in March. That's it. Okay, that was down from 5,000 in March 24 under Biden. 5,673, 94% lower, because Trump's just enforcing the law, and he got Mexico to put their troops on the northern border. That's why. But apparently illicit drug seizures are not down. What? So some stats, 49 million Americans are involved with substance abuse. 27 million of them drug addicts. That's a big market, 27 million. Okay? USA spends $46 billion to fight the drug problem every year. 86,000 died from overdoses in the latest stats. 178,000 died from excessive drinking in the latest stats. That's in a year. That's horrendous. I mean, 250,000 people biting the dust. Joining us now from Springfield, Missouri, is a former special agent of the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency. He served in law enforcement 28 years. Brian Townsend, who is an expert on the drug situation. All right, I don't understand. So if you're sealing a border down and illegal migrants, many of whom were carrying illegal narcotics with them for the cartels, smuggling them in. Why are drug seizures actually up from the Biden administration?
Yeah, thanks, Bill, for having me on. The problem is these cartels, these criminal networks they're highly adaptive. They're very sophisticated, and they're going to respond to our movement on the border and the decrease in apprehensions in a way that makes them successful. And unfortunately,
specific. I mean, if they're nailing down all of the illegal crossings in the night over the river into the desert, there's a truck picks them up, takes them to Chicago. If all of that is stopped, how are the heroin, the cocaine, the methamphetamine, the fentanyl, how do they get in?
Well, the legal points of entry, the same roads and highways that we would take to go into Mexico are the same ways that they're bringing a lot of the drugs into the United States. They're just, they're trying to overwhelm our resources there with just the high volume of traffic. And fentanyl it doesn't take a lot to do a lot of damage. I mean, so, multiple small loads is just as effective as, one or two large loads. And, they'll use tunnels, they'll use drones, they'll use, the ocean, Canada. I mean, they're gonna adapt. They're gonna figure out ways to.
All right, I got it, but it should. I'm stunned that the drug importation is up while the migrants have been largely stopped. Now, fentanyl is usually mixed in with heroin or cocaine, and that's how it's sold on the street. The price of drugs on the street is pretty cheap right now throughout the United States, right?
It is. Unfortunately, we haven't seen a rise in our prices. It means they just saturate the market, and they continue to do so. They're very good at that. They control the supply chain, the distribution chain, and yeah, we haven't seen a reduction in the prices, unfortunately. The demand is too great.
Yeah, the demand is huge, and it's not expensive now to buy a lot of drugs, even though crimes are committed to get the money by the addicts. My thing has always been, you're not going to win the importation war. You're not going to stop the drug importation. There's just too much corruption, too much money, and you're always going to get it in. And if I'm wrong, tell me, because 30 years in this business, you know more than I do. But you can't stop it, particularly when you have almost 30 million Americans wanting to buy it on a daily basis. But the demand side, you can't stop. And that's what they did in Singapore, where I did my thesis at Harvard on. They stopped the demand side, where if you are caught in Singapore, which is a fascist country, with drugs in your bloodstream, you go to mandatory drug rehab, 21 months. So you're gone. You can't buy any drugs anymore. And they took the market away. So there's no drug problem in Singapore. You couldn't exactly do that here, but you could replicate some of it. Am I wrong?
Yeah, we could absolutely do more here to reduce the demand. We, first of all, let's have the serious conversation and let's fund it. Instead of putting Band-Aids on this situation. I mean, we have such a small portion of the world's population, yet we consume the majority of drugs. I mean, we need to figure that out.
By far,
more than anyone else,
right?
Absolutely.
Because we have money. But you say fund the drug rehab. You got to want drug rehab. Most of these addicts don't want it. And that comes from the rehab studies. They don't want to get off it. They want to be high every day. And you can take them in and try to rehab them, and they back out and they want to use, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, we know it does take numerous attempts through rehab to break through, right? To help them.
So why am I doing that? I don't want my money doing that. I don't want to spend money on those people. I want to take them, put them someplace for a period of time. All right, isolate them. And then if they do it again, then the period of time gets more. And then they'll stop because they can't get their drugs. I don't want to be paying for 15 rehabs. Am I wrong? Am I mean?
I think we need to isolate why are they using drugs. I mean, that's why we do.
What do you mean why? They're using it because they want to get high. That's why they're using it. They want to get intoxicated. I don't care whether they had a bad childhood. All right.
Well, I mean, it may not be our problem, but we can be human towards them and fund that problem, because we know that trauma,
waste of money,
the abuse, those things are
waste of money.
If we can solve the root problems, we can.
You can't solve the root problem. This is like migration. You can't solve the root problem. The root problem is they're poor in Honduras. We're wealthy. That's the root problem. Ask Kamala Harris. She was in charge of the root problem. The root problem of taking drugs is weakness, cowardice. These people are weak. They want to get high. They don't want to live in the real world. That's what drives me crazy, because we as a country won't admit it. Last word.
I know we look at this as a moral failing, but I think there's more than that. And the stigma and the way that we treat folks because of this, make it difficult for them to get treatment. And I think if we look at this a little differently, we might spend a little bit more money on the front end, but I think on the back end, we're going to be, one is saving people, and number two is ultimately saving money.
All right.
Resources.
Well, you and I have a gentleman's disagreement, and you talk about stigma. What about the stigma of these people mugging some old lady going to the bodega trying to get some food? Is that okay?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What about ruining the city of San Francisco? What about shooting up heroin in your neck in front of children? What about all that? Does anyone feel sorry for them? I'll tell you what,
no,
I'm in charge of this, Mr. Townsend. You give me 6 months, I'll cut it by half. But these people aren't going to like what happens to them. I'm not going to be mean to them, not going to abuse them. They're going to be isolated. And that is the only way to do it. We appreciate your time very much. A new administration will be sworn in soon, as we all know, but who knows what could happen before that? I'm not taking any chances, which is why I have an emergency food supply from my Patriot Supply. Right now, they are offering $100 off their 3-month emergency food kit. It's got 2,000 calories a day, 3 months, plenty to get you through an emergency. Their food kits last for up to 25 years of storage and even come in rugged, weatherproof buckets. Please go to preparelikebill.com right now to order your 3-month emergency food kit. I've got an emergency food supply because my safety and security is worth it. Again, please visit preparelikebill.com to order your 3-month emergency food kit right now. Attention business owners, don't miss this. Outdated systems are costing you time, money, and business opportunities. Thousands of companies have already modernized with FYSI's artificial intelligence integration and solutions by using smart automation and predictive insights to boost their competitive edge. This is what sets billion-dollar companies apart from small business. FYSI can help you make that leap. With FYSI, you will use the latest technology to streamline your operations, improve efficiency, unlock new growth potential. So don't wait. Start transforming your business and set yourself up for success using FYSI. Act now. Get your free $5,000 risk assessment today by using promo code BILL at fysi.com/bill, or you can call 800-877-4000. Smart Life. So the last couple of times that I've flown on commercial, I flew on Delta and it was good. And I'm tough. I'm a consumer. I pay my money, and I don't want any incompetence. Is that unreasonable? They got my life in their hands at 30,000 feet. I don't want any disrespect. I don't want any sloppy stuff. So Delta was good. I flew from LaGuardia in New York to Palm Beach. So the American Consumer Satisfaction Index, that is an organization, the ACSI. They have ranked the airlines about customer satisfaction. Now, overall, customer satisfaction in America has dropped, in the last year. Why? Because they lose the bags, they treat you rudely, the food is terrible, the seats are cramped, the Wi-Fi doesn't work, all of that. So you're getting on a plane, know that. Bring your own food, because you're not going to get decent food on those planes. You're not. That kind of thing. All right. So here are the American Consumer Satisfaction rankings. Okay, these are consumers like best. Number 1, Southwest. Hard to believe. Southwest, a tremendous amount of trouble. 2, Delta, okay. tied with Delta is JetBlue. Now, I boycotted JetBlue for the last 4 years. Maybe they've improved. I have a couple of friends that took them and said it weren't bad. Maybe they've improved. Got to be fair. But JetBlue, I had it with them. Then the next one's Alaska, then American, then United, then Spirit, then Frontier. Okay? That's customer satisfaction. But here's the smart life tip. If you are going to fly this summer and you don't have a reservation, you're in trouble. So I would spend this upcoming weekend, trying to get where I want to go, because if you don't do it this weekend, you're going to be in the middle seat, or you're not going to have a seat, or you're going to have to change planes 8 times, because the airlines have cut back. And they used to have wide bodies going from New York down to South Florida. Now it's little planes. Yeah, everybody's jammed in. There's not going to be a lot of seats. So smart life, you always got to plan ahead. Can't just say, I'm going to the airport. No. New poll on patriotism among younger Americans. All right. So this is 18 to 29-year-olds in the USA. It's taken by Harvard. How ironic, this poll. Okay. First question. Which of the following best describes you? Proud to be an American, 41% of the 18 to 29s. Embarrassed to be an American, 29%. Neither proud nor embarrassed to be American, they're neutral, 26%. Democratic kids. All right, which of the following best describes you? Democrats only. Proud to be American, 24%. Ooh. Embarrassed to be an American, 54%. Neither proud nor embarrassed, 21%. Republican kids. Proud to be American, 76%. Embarrassed, 8%. Embarrassed or proud, 16%. So Republican younger people are much more patriotic than Democratic younger people. Why? Because of the bubble. So if you are a liberal high schooler or college person, then that's all you hear, because you're not encouraged to go out and listen to me or other people who may bring you another point of view. And it's the same thing on the right, but you have to understand that the availability of information on the left is 5 times as much on the right. 5 times as much. So if you go into the internet, social media, left, 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 oh, there's a right one. Left, 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 left. Oh, there's the right one. If you go on TV, you know what this thing is. TV, it's Fox Newsmax versus everybody else. That's what it is. So these kids hear the stuff, they parrot the stuff, they don't know anything anyway. And I'm sorry I'm being supercilious, word of the day, about the kids. But I didn't know anything when I was early 20s. I didn't know much. I thought I did, but I didn't. It takes study. It takes concentration. It takes learning and experience. These kids, they want to be accepted by their peers. And if their peers are all liberal, like Harvard, then they're going to be liberal. Because if you're not, you get ostracized. You're not a cool kid. Same thing in high school. If you're in a group and the group sees it this way and you don't see it that way, they boot you. And that's what's going on. But traditional Americans, which covers the Republicans, they are more patriotic. And you can prove that by the military volunteerism. You get many, many more militaries from the traditional families, particularly in the South and the Midwest, than you do from the Northeast or California. Okay? That's how you can prove that. Thank you for watching. To view full episodes of the No Spin News anytime, sign up to become a BillO'Reilly.com premium or concierge member today.